means that it will affect our training. And senior officers, as a matter of fact, yesterday resolved that, one, as they intend to start paying senior officers, they think every senior officer should be paid, including international students. And this is a practice. If a Ugandan went for training to USA, they will be paid as a resident. So that was what they resolved yesterday, that all the residents be paid, regardless of where they're coming from. And finally, they think that should there be no positive actions taken by the ministry to be able to solve the crisis of industrial action, then on 13th, Sunday, at midnight, 00 hours, they will also put down their tools completely and stop working. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Niku, representative of the senior house officers. Still, the resolutions for senior house officers scaled down to remuneration, welfare, including feeding and accommodation, and formal appointment in the public service structure. So we will now invite the journalists for. Just before that, there is an issue that has been going on about the legality of Uganda Medical Association. Dr. Lobu, he will give us something to respond to that.
Thank you all. My name is Dr. Lobo Emmanuel. I work as a surgeon with Mulago Hospital, and I'm the chair of continuous professional development at the Uganda Medical Association. I'd like to start off by saying that the Uganda Medical Association is registered under the Companies Act of Uganda as a company limited by guarantee and not having share capital, which is the norm for all professional associations. And I'll also further say that we have consulted and obtained a legal opinion from Chapter 4 Uganda through Counsel Nicholas Opio and confirmed that we are following the laws of Uganda. On top of that, we are a legitimate body since doctors have actually laid down their tools. Further, due to the deficient leadership faced by the unions, other health cadres have followed the doctors. This is in spite of the dissociation from the doctors' strike by these unions. Industrial action is catered for in the 1995 Constitution of Uganda, which is the supreme law under Article 40, Economic Rights. Public servants can withdraw their labor in accordance with the law. In addition, Article 29 of our Constitution is about the protection of freedom of assembly and association. Specifically, Section 1E states, freedom of association, which shall include the freedom to form and join associations or unions, including trade unions and political and other civic organizations. The Public Service Standing Orders and other labor laws speak to industrial action. Finally, collective bargaining is a human right protected by international laws, International Labour Organization, to which Uganda subscribes. The Declaration of Human Rights protects collective bargaining and industrial action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lobu. Just to add on to his point, we have prominent members that belong to the Uganda Medical Association, like Professor Francis Omaswa, who is a distinguished doctor globally. He's among the best cardiologists you'll ever find. Former Vice President of Uganda, Dr. Specioza Wandera Kazibwe. Prime Minister, Right Honorable Dr. Ruakana Rugunda. The Chair Parliamentary Committee on Health, Honorable Dr. Bukenya Michael. The Permanent Secretary, Dr. Diana Atwine. Former Minister of Health, Dr. Christine Ondoa. Minister of Health, Honorable Dr. Jane Ruth Aceng. State Minister for Health, Primary Health Care, Dr. Kaduchu Moriku Joyce. State Minister for Housing, Dr. Balio Monsi Christopher. The Executive Director Mulago, Dr. Batera Nabyalugaba, to mention but a few. When members register for the association, we give them the certificate of incorporation and a constitution. So the minister saying she only got the constitution yesterday is a big lie. So we'll invite the press for a question and answer session.
I'm about to call the minister to the disciplinary committee of the Uganda Medical Association to answer, why she is disowning an association she has subscribed to in advance up to 2019. She's one of our best members when it comes to subscribing in time, and we are very proud of her, and we are going to work with her, and we will make sure that we solve this problem as soon as possible.
You know, she's even paid for next year.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, question and answer.
So you pick that.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Martin from KTV. I have two questions for you, Dr. First and foremost, at the launch of this industry action, we pledged full support for emergency cases. Yesterday, I was at Chibugu and I have a report of a child who died. It was refused to be attended to. Secondly, I am inquiring, okay, what do you make of the minister saying that this industry action is illegal because Uganda Medical Association is not responsible for to unite the doctors in the whole country, so it is illegal.
Okay.
I'm not other questions.
Other questions on this? Yes, Juma.
What you've just read. She didn't pay attention. The legality question, what you just read. You just need to repeat for her.
Most of you, you interfere in the work of other health workers. What is your fate? And what is going to happen? She puts her words into action.
Which is what exactly?
Probably you heard that their diseases have been directed to follow up on medical workers who are working, and those that are not working probably will face disciplinary.
Like what? Okay. Okay.
Next. Yes, please.
My name is Ekwaro Obuku. I work with the minister.
Okay.
Yesterday, the minister said that you are a witness. And
So,
the body you're in is also not together. And actually, she said
he's going
that
to respond.
if you continue with the strike, if you continue telling doctors to strike, that will be like trespassing, and charges against you might arise. What do you have to comment about my statement?
Thank you. Next. Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would like to know, you are saying the minister is part of you. When did she register a member of the association? And when do we expect the disciplinary actions that you are promising?
Yes, gentlemen.
Thank you. I am from Uganda. Mr. Anthony, in fact, the minister alluded to the fact that there is a court order banning you from interfering with matters of health, and you are in the same time trying to mislead the doctors.
She gave you a copy of the court order. Anyway, next. Yes, Juma, you have the rejoinder.
This goes to the internship.
Yes, please.
The minister said you lose your internship if you don't report your take.
Okay.
Yeah, where is the legal opinion? The legal
Can you take that because others are in petition.
Any more questions?
You can answer those. Let's finish that.
Okay, let's answer to these ones, and we'll have more if there are any.
Emergency cases is the first. Do you want to respond to emergency?
So the president will respond to the emergencies. Madrin from KTV, the pledge that we shall continue providing emergency services.
So, first of all, I'd like to say that we call upon all doctors to ensure that they're in hospitals with skeleton staff to provide emergency medical and surgical services. This is our position. We have not withdrawn emergency and surgical and medical services. We are following the guidelines of the World Medical Association, and actually there is research to back up the strategy of providing emergency medical services. There is a paper done by Cunningham and colleagues published in 2008, which looked at 7 studies in 5 countries, and these studies were examining industrial action, which were as long as 1 week to 17 weeks, and this industrial action is done in a way that all doctors who are in hospital pay attention to emergency services. And the outcome actually was very good and very surprising, that during industrial action, actually patients die less, or the number remains about the same. I can give you references for this paper, and you can go and obtain more copies. You read for yourselves. It's a systematic review by Cunningham and colleagues. It's here. Maybe I can just give a copy there. Therefore, we are following evidence and guidelines of international nature to guide our industrial action. One thing I need to make very, very clear, that the chief striker, the chief organizer of all manner of strikes in the health sector is the government itself. Let me qualify my statement. If you go to Kabale Regional Referral Hospital, and the hospital has 6 doctors instead of over 20, who is organizing that strike there? Isn't it the government? If you go to a facility and mothers are passing away because there is no blood, because there is no blood giving set, because she has come at 3 a.m. and there are no fluids, and even the pharmacies where she could have bought the fluids are closed, then you, the government, are the chief organizer of the strike in the first place. And this was the situation that was happening. Mothers were dying in our hands. Kawempe here. If you go to Kirudu, my colleagues were telling me, when they enter the taxis, these senior house officers, they live around there. When they're in the taxi, coming out, the conversation in the taxi there is, why are you going to that place where coffins are marketable? Isn't it? Dr. Speciosa Kazibe the other day said, hospitals have become a market for coffins. And this is why actually doctors took it upon themselves to formalize the strike, which has been going on anyway. Isn't it? It's very unfortunate that this child died, and it's very difficult under such circumstances to distinguish the death, whether it was really industrial action or not. Because at the time we called for industrial action, we were desperate, and we thought there is no difference between going for industrial action and not going for industrial action. Actually, industrial action might be better, because then we withdraw doctors from what we would call less severe conditions, and they focus on more severe conditions. Therefore, the outcome among patients who need emergency care may be better. And we are really using research to inform this intervention.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to add that in Kawempe, the senior consultants had a meeting 2 days ago, and they gave a 48 hours deadline that if they don't have supplies and equipment, they will stop. They will also close the emergency services, and the 48 hours are ending today. Anyway, the issue of legality of the Uganda Medical Association, I feel, is one that is taking us away from the issues. However, Dr. Elobu will elaborate more, as you have each already received a copy of our legal opinion from Chapter 4. So Dr. Elobu will elaborate more about this.
As said before, Chapter 4 has provided a legal opinion on this action that we are taking up. The Uganda Medical Association, as I've said before, is fully registered with under the Companies Act as a professional association. In our constitution, our mission is to fight for overall health care in the country and access by Ugandans to health care in the country. All these actions are ultimately about being able to provide health care to everyone who needs it. So we're well within rights, as I've read before, the provisions of the Constitution that allow us to withdraw our labor accordingly.
I would also like to add that the Uganda Medical Association broke away from the British Medical Association in 1964. And we were first registered as a public entity in 1974. If you go to the records of URSB, we have 2 registration documents. The next one is 2005. I also like to say that we are actually older than the union, which came into being in the mid-90s, again formed by doctors following industrial action. Doctors first met His Excellency the President in 1988 and aired out their issues. The frustration built up to 1994 when they called for industrial action and formed the union. I'd like to address the issue of legitimacy. Legitimacy is more important than legality. You may be legal, like the Medical Workers Union, but lack legitimacy. If the Uganda Medical Association calls for industrial action for doctors and nurses, clinical officers, and other health workers follow through, disobeying their leaders, it means their leaders have lost legitimacy. In the same breath, let me respond to the journalist from Bukede who talked about the court order. The court order is actually true. And I will recount the circumstances of the court order. The court order deals with Uganda Medical Workers Union, which is a limping organization and does not exist. That is why I'm not bothered with the court order. It is a court order of several months ago and I have not paid attention to it. I do not need to go to the facilities of the Medical Workers Union because they do not exist. The leaders were caught up in leadership challenges, mismanagement of property, mismanagement of collections, and they don't have following. That is why they cannot go to Mulango to hold a meeting. They have tried it and they were chased. On the 12th of February 2017, I received an anonymous telephone call to attend a meeting. When I attended this meeting in Kawempe, I found health workers of all calibers dressed in light green from all over the country, and they gave me a red carpet. They told me, Obuku, we have been seeing you around shouting for health workers, particularly doctors. We want you to be our chairman. I said, I cannot be your chairman. I don't know this workers' union. When I refused, they said, all right, unanimously, General Secretary. Since I was General Secretary of Uganda Medical Association, I didn't see a difference and accepted. I was even appointed by public service to join the negotiations committee by the Minister of Public Service. I just didn't take it up. Why? When I went to the office, I found the office in Nakulavi in tatters. 1 to 2 inches of dust in the office of the General Secretary. So my first job was to remove the dust. Since I have a PhD, I did not see how I'm going to remove that dust. And I decided I cannot take part of that kind of disorganization. My biggest job was to start fighting other leaders who claim to be other leaders. Therefore, what I'm trying to say is that a mismanagement of the Uganda Medical Workers Union has created legitimate space for Uganda Medical Association. We even have provision for associate members. And it appears the time is right to consider these nurses and clinical officers as associate members if it will make us stronger. I'm not saying we're going to do it, but it looks like there is a gap which we can benefit from and grow our numbers. And maybe within a year, if matters have not been resolved for them, we declare the mother of all mothers of industrial action. So that's my response when it comes to that part of the question.
Take more questions.
Well,
there were questions.
There were Juma from NTV. You raised the issue of interns, that if they do not go back to work, they will be discontinued. And earlier I had hinted that interns cannot work without the supervisors in the hospitals. In day-to-day life, you can easily relate it to a provisional driving permit. That is the same situation. So the interns cannot be discontinued, and the legal team is also looking into this so that they provide a response.
I just wanted to add that on the issue of RDCs, the legal opinion, okay, from one of the best brains in the land when it comes to industrial relations and human rights, Counsel Nicholas Opio, whom I'm sure you have all come in touch with, talks about resignation or expulsion. And he says, industrial action is a constitutional right that is protected under Article 40 of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, as enumerated earlier in this paper. The Labor Laws and Public Service Standing Orders 2010 further buttress this right. Under the said orders, participating in industrial action is not envisaged as one of the grounds for resignation. It therefore does not hold in law and fact. Our interpretation is that anybody who attempts to punish, threaten, or intimidate a doctor taking part in this industrial action is actually overthrowing the Constitution of Uganda, should be arrested for treason, possibly a citizen's arrest by the doctors themselves. We are more than them, and we don't want to start using needles and syringes to catch them.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I also just wanted to add that indeed Dr. Jane Aceng is a member of the Uganda Medical Association. Her number is 1022, and she renewed on the 7th of September 2017 when she came as the chief guest of the second Grand Doctors Conference. And let me quote her words. She said, doctors in this country have been neglected. And she further said, actually, the kind of pay doctors receive is an insult. I don't know, I see you nodding your head in acknowledgement. I think you have now remembered. Yes. So we want to forgive her for going astray, and we will bring her to this disciplinary action. Maybe we will just go to her boardroom because she's a minister. We won't call her to our committee. But the point being, this is not the issue. The issue is not about Dr. Aceng. The issue is not about Dr. Diana. The issue is not about the UMA membership among us leaders who she's saying we don't work for the state and therefore patients can continue dying until Uganda Medical Association gets a president who gets a salary of 1.1 million from the government. That's when they will say, now we can talk to them. We are saying, please address the issue. Don't kill the messenger. Arrest the message. Let those RDCs arrest the problem. Let them not arrest the doctor. They will escalate the problem, and that's not the solution.
Thank you. Any more questions?
There were more.
Yes, Catherine.
Hi. Just a question about the legality. I've read Nicholas Opio's advice to you.
Yes.
And in that advice doesn't mention how you're registered. It doesn't talk about the fact that you're registered as a company.
But it's,
yet
yeah,
you're
you have said
registered as an association. And then the other issue is the notice you gave. The ministry said you're meant to give 90 days notice, and you gave less than a month. So how do you respond to that?
Let me respond to that quickly. One, I wanted to say that we are learning from the best. We are learning from the custodians of the law, the Uganda Judicial Officers Association, as well as the Association of Public Prosecutors. These are the ones who have read the law extensively. They are an association, and they called for industrial action. So as medical doctors, we are copying, editing, and pasting. The other thing I need to mention very clearly is that the international laws, if you read them carefully, under the International Labour Organization, actually state that even employees who are not registered in any form of organization as employees can call for industrial action. For example, you 5 journalists from New Vision, okay? You can go one morning and tell Kabushenga that we are the ones responsible for the increasing value of this company. And you just get a good lawyer like Nicholas Opio to represent you. He becomes your president of 5 journalists. And he calls for industrial action, okay? And you start the negotiation. It's really under the right of collective bargaining, which does not need you to register. In fact, it's a disadvantage to register as a union because you have to wait for 90 days. But as an association, you can pull out without notice. We were therefore responsible because we know we are doctors. We cannot just pull out. We gave warning, by the way, for 1 year, since 2016, duty facilitating allowance. The strike was boiling, but one of our mentors and our leaders, Dr. Mungera Margaret here, who is of course protecting me in spirit, she passed away, may her soul rest in peace, guided us, and we decided to pursue the path of paperwork and negotiation. It is until that frustration happened with some broken promises, because these 5 million shillings the president is talking about, we talked about it last year in October at State House, and the bureaucrats were there, Public Service, Ministry of Health, Finance. They didn't take action. This year when we went back, the same song, isn't it? And therefore, what we are saying this time around, we want action. We want to see this matter resolved. We want to see medicines in place, and we want to see that doctors are better off. Thank you.
Catherine, that's good enough for you?
Just another question about the atmosphere of the strike. Obviously, the Minister of Health has said that doctors should get back to work, and for doctors having their internship.
You don't want to respond?
What kind of
Because we've talked to the
challenges
Prime
are you
Minister.
facing? Any threats from the government? As an association, what kind of intimidation or threats have you received from the government?
Yes, let me respond, since these people elected me as their president. I'd like to say that we've moved past that. We are not focusing on the nitty-gritty of the strike, because then we would be hitting the mark and missing the point. What we want to do is not to lose the eye from the ball of how to resolve this matter. As I said earlier in the statement, I was in a long telephone call with the Prime Minister, who we asked to organize the government team, and we have received a positive response, and we're expecting to meet the Ministry of Health team, the Ministry of Public Service team, and representation from the Ministry of Finance. Starting even after this, we are ready. In terms of intimidation, I don't know if any of us can be intimidated here, but amongst us, we have somebody called the gladiator of the Uganda Medical Association, whose opportunity has come to say something about the strike management plan and risk management plan when it comes to intimidation.
Thank you so much, my president. We actually expected this to happen. It is not a surprise. And you know, when you fail to negotiate, when you fail to reason, to give reasoning a listening ear, this is what happens. And we know actually that a lot will be thrown onto us in terms of threats, but threats are not what we are looking at. As the president has addressed it, we are looking at resolving matters in the right direction. I don't think the public out there is comfortable coming to a facility